Hello everyone, no respawns here. Hope you're having a grand week. So this is Frostpunk, The Last Autumn. Those of you who have been on the channel, well, will know that I did a couple of videos on this back in 2018 when it dropped. They were very well received, and I've been playing The Last Autumn, which is the latest DLC, quite a bit. And I wanted to do a similar video I've done in the past where I kind of show you how to make an early and efficient starting settlement, some best practices, and kind of get you set up in the game without necessarily giving you a checklist of specific things that you have to do in this exact order. With that in mind, this is going to be aimed at new players and people who just want to play the normal mode. Obviously, there will be handy things that I'm going to mention for hard mode, but this isn't, this isn't a harder difficulty meta video where I'm like checklisting every single thing you have to do. It's more just explaining the core concepts and kind of giving you a nice strong foot. One thing I'm also going to do, so I've actually recorded this video once already and I got to day 15 and that took me an hour and a half, and that's way too long for one video I don't like, because you want to, get an idea without me just showing you everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few days, and then I'm going to load up my other save that's on day 15, and then I can retroactively explain some things, namely because that's when I get to like the labour laws and the plant safety, which is where I have to explain some more stuff, whereas to be honest I can explain most of the stuff in the first few days. Right, so let's just jump straight into it. So this is our wee little generator here. So first thing I do is always hit pause. People work from 8 AM to 6 PM, so 8 to 16. 8 to 18 rather, 16, god that's 4 PM. And I always pause when I go in. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the game, you get a book of laws. This is the kind of the civic laws that you can pass, which add a bit more flavour to the society you're building, but also give you loads of new abilities and often have quite a lot of moral choices in them. So, for example, gruel and hearty meals is an obvious, good or bad one. Some of them are a bit more grey, and often them are wholly good. As you get further along, which I will show in a wee bit when I load up my other save, you get some more dynamic ones, it's the best way of putting it, and when you get further on, you will actually get more choices which are maybe you crossing the line. But the first one we're going to do is sign the chapel law here. And then next we're going to get people to work. So in the early section of the game, you're going to need a lot of wood. Quite a lot of wood, in fact. But it does switch over to steel eventually, but not as much. Basically, after about when you've built the first section of the generator, then you're going to use an absolutely obscene amount of steel. But to us, that was like me with that turned up to very fast. That was an hour and a half in. And granted, probably a bit less for you because you won't be pausing and talking so much. So next we're going to get my little setup. Now I have a nice little efficient setup with my buildings, which I'm going to show you now. So people obviously know that I like tidy, organised buildings. So I'm going to pop that there like this. Then I pop there like that. Then I'm going to remove that. But now that's in the perfect position and it's in line with that as well. And next we're going to put a gathering post down. We're going to pay attention to where she is. What's be about doing this by eye? That one. Cool. And that will get all of them. Swag. And then we are going to build a road from here. But we only have enough to build it there. But we're still going to build it. Because that way everything gets completed rather quickly. For those of you who have played Frostpunk but haven't played The Last Autumn, it's a little bit different in how it's set up. So you don't have hope, you have motivation. Motivation is motivations. It's how motivated people are for working. Once it crosses this little pip here, you get a 30% buff, which is awesome and really handy. Once it drops too low, obviously people start working a lot slower. So you want to keep it as high as possible at all times. You also don't have children in this one at all. You do have a few other different types of citizen types. Convicts is one thing later down the line, but that's only if you cross the line as the engineers. And you have engineers, but they don't do as many jobs as they did in the base game, so you can't get them to work anywhere that you like unless you pass certain laws, which means everyone does every job. So let's just speed this on. Rise and shine, girls and boys. Right, so now we're going to pause. First steps. That's just, for those who don't know what that is, you'll get little pop-ups like that, adding a little bit more backstory to what's going on in the wider world, what's going on in your little area, and more often than not, there are actually choices you can make, which you will see quite a few of. I'm just going to take that down to 10. You do need coal, but not yet. Again, with Frostpunk, the base game, obviously heat is a huge factor. Heat does become a factor in this right at the end when the frosts start coming, but the most thing with coal is powering a load of ventilation plants, which again I will show you in a wee bit. I'll probably start the next section on day 16 actually, because I'm going to assign one more law so you can see a few more of the labour laws. And now we're going to build this road here, so that way that road's all done. And now we're just going to gather resources. I would highly not, would recommend not having the game running on very fast game speed, because you will just miss things all the time. However, for the sake of this video, I'm having it so I can show you as much stuff as possible. So the first thing you want to beeline is the sawmill. You could get docks, but no, just ignore that and get the sawmill. You just need loads of wood, and having just a massive influx of wood at the start is just so much more helpful. So get the sawmill. Right. So I've got 10 people free already. Who are these? Oh, it's just engineers, isn't it, of course. I could actually build the next workshop now, but I'm not, because I want to make sure I have enough for the other bits I'm going to build in the evening. One thing though, and the reason why I built that road there right at the start, and basically if I build the road and then build that little bit at the end, it means I can actually complete my first research project before the end of the day. So I would recommend, if you just want to get the sawmill up literally ready for the second day, place that down, build the road, and then the second you get enough wood, build the rest of the road. If you build it and then wait for you to have enough wood, you just miss it. A little bit of a tip there. As I said, I don't normally do the meta, but that is the one meta. Now, you have options. You do want a forager's quarters, but you want to clear all these resources off quite quickly first. And until you do, you're not going to have the free 15 people required for the forager's quarters. So what we're actually going to do is not press the constructions button. We're going to go and research, get faster gathering. And now the day's over.
The shift's over. Time to grab a bite.
Have a bite, lads. So right, I'm not going to be building houses until they actually request houses. But what prompts them requesting houses? A couple of them get sick. So what we're actually going to do is build a medical post straight away. And we're now going to build the chapel. Right. Now, this is me being obsessive about where things are. There we go. That's perfect. See that big, thick green line there? So you notice that's why I was paying attention to where this is. So I want these all lined up. But obviously I can't place this house to line up where this green line is. So I have to pay attention to where it is. So it's that little thing there. Right there. Gorgeous. Beautiful. I'll just double check that is actually beautiful. Oh. Oh, wait, is it beautiful? Yes, it is. Good. Okay, grand. Outstanding. So now we're going to build the chapel. Now, I always build the same stuff here. You don't have to, but it's a nice little tidy setup with houses. Bit of count to there. 1, 2, 3. Now, you may notice I built 3 houses. And I deliberately pulled that one pip backwards. The reason being is we're going to have, well, we're actually going to have a sawmill there, but we're going to have a bathhouse there. And the bathhouse is 3 deep. But also we don't actually need these houses, because not being built yet, it won't use the resources. And now we can pop the chapel here, and it will cover all these houses rather nicely. Oh, if you want to rotate things, by the way, you click the middle mouse button in case you didn't know. And I'm going to take you off because I don't need you yet. Alright, lads, calm down. So this is one of the first choices you'll get. People are throwing shit down the hole. I always stop them. Never let them do it. I don't know Don't know what happens if you do. If maybe nothing happens, but discontent is incredibly easy to manage, so I don't care. Right. Do something really weird because I need a bit more. Oh, it's only 10 wood, isn't it? Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, sweet. Right, so we're gonna pop a sawmill there. For some reason, I was in my brain think the sawmill's 20 wood. It's not. You will demolish sawmills all the time, by the way, and you'll get about 8 wood back. So don't obsess too much about where you put them. You're going to be moving them around quite a bit. It's the one structure that you don't really need to care about so much. But I always recommend putting one there. Right, so now we're going to pop off a few of this off the wood. Because you still definitely need to get steel, and you want a little bit of coal ticking away. Beautiful. Beautiful. Motivation boosting up. So this is quite a nice little setup now. I'm going to be introducing the evening service. This gives you this ability here, evening service, which you'll get when you can have more food. You want to try and get your motivation up above that pip as soon as possible. Realistically, you won't start falling below that until the later side of the game, unless you're maybe not doing so well, which you shouldn't, as long as you relax and follow some of my tips. But getting it up soon is very useful. Right now, people are going to request houses. So people, I'll provide shelter with everyone, because you'll get a massive, well, big motivation boost. That means you need to make sure we have 90 wood, and people should immediately go into here. That's why I built that, because if you leave people untreated, they'll become gravely ill, and once they become gravely ill, they're never going to work, and they're never going to get better, unless you use radical treatments to get them better, or give them, yeah, basically you don't want people gravely ill.
Come on, get moving. Time to work.
Cool. So right, now what I do is I wait until I have enough wood first for the, because you see it's really pipping up now. Right, so I've got enough now. I'm going to build this first. Right, so I'm going to do the forager's quarters first. It's a toss-up, and this is where you don't have to be as meta. I'm being a little bit more meta than I really should be. But in terms of timings, I could probably build the docks first. I'm going to build the docks first, actually. Because even though I could build the forager's quarters, it's a bit of an influx of resources. I tend to build it after I've done the docks. Some people might shout at me for that because you want to get a couple of steam cores as soon as possible, but no, you don't need them that soon. Right, so I've got obscene amounts of wood. So the first things first, now I want to build people's houses. So there are 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to build the thing there, so when I'm here, 8, 9. Brilliant. And then just build that, and that way you need 1 road. And next, we want food for the morrow. I always build my stuff in the same place because it looks nice. I have my pub there. It's this nice little docks area. It looks lovely. Okay, so once I've got once I've done the basic facilities section, I'm then going to jump forward to day 15, which will be the end of the next section. Right, so I've fulfilled my shelter promise. Everyone's really chipper now. And we're getting in quite grand. So the big difference with this one, I guess, is when you start getting to building the generator and kind of managing your time. Now, I can actually use 5 engineers. Oh, I've built that in the wrong fucking place. Stupid. It's fine. It's not an urgent thing, so it doesn't matter too much. Let's see what we can do. Built it in the wrong place, everyone. Don't do that. It's fine, because I've got so much wood, it's alright. You build an engineering thing first, unless you don't. Unless you're not as obsessive as I am, obviously. And then you build your cookhouse. People aren't even hungry yet, and I've got loads of raw food. So, food isn't as, it's unless people are starving, then it gets an issue. There we go. Gorgeous. Lovely, that's better. I end up having 4 workshops, in case you're curious. One of the greatest tips of this is getting your 4 workshop up. I usually get them up before day 10. Because that way you'll end up researching everything way before you actually finish the game. And that's just quite satisfying. Right, there we go. Let's pull 5 people off here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get them cooking. Beautiful. Docks researched. Okay. So you don't want to neglect this part. But we need the foragers' quarters now. Cool. We're going to slap a docks down now. Basic docks. So you have 4 places to put docks. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also put fishing docks there. So what I do is I have 2 docks which I fully upgrade with fully upgraded reloading stations here. And then these 2 are going to be fishing docks. Now, a big tip with this is food isn't actually very hard to get. But later in the game, the water will freeze over because obviously the ice is coming in. And therefore you can't fish anymore. But the fish is an unlimited resource until that point. So you can actually get food from the foragers station as well, which is what foragers quarters rather. At certain places you can set up camps. You don't want to set up those camps until later in the game because they have a finite amount of food. So basically, you use fish until the winter comes, then you switch over to the foragers camp, which is why you want 2 of them, because 1 of them on their own will not be able to sustain these people. 2 of them, which are fully upgraded and you get the advancements for it, will be comfortably able to support all your people. Easy. Right. Introduce a new law. Now, you can do the bathhouse. Or you can do the pub. Thing about the bathhouse, I'm going to build one in a bit. But I kind of prefer the pub. I like the pub. The pub makes me happy. Although you don't have it now. Actually, let's build the bathhouse. So I'm being a bit whimsical. The reason I build the bathhouse, pub's great. Bathhouse has no one working in it, and you can just turn the bathhouse off and get the benefit of people going, "Yay, the bathhouse!" Right, I'm gonna do this now. Cool. Right, so everything's going pretty well. Outstanding. So we've got foragers now. Now, we're going to do this. Got a dock set up. Right. So we are going to want to get... Now, you see right here, base, I've got 5 days. Now, I don't have to hit... I need to beat that deadline. You can miss one deadline, but you will... Eventually, at least on normal mode, when you kind of want to be, you know, a good playthrough, you do want to eventually start getting ahead of your deadlines quite a bit. The first one, the one after this, generally you just manage to hit that, and then afterwards you start pulling quite far ahead. Right. So we built a docks, gathering resources. So let's build the foragers' quarters, but it's going to be here, because that's where my pub is. Beautiful. Right, so yeah, we'll basically finish this section. Wood power. Yes, this is where I start, and perfect timing actually. This is where you start using all these resources up. So it's got 1 left. So for now, I'll just smack a few in there. We've also got the steam cores here. This is when I start actually harvesting these. Don't forget your bathhouse. Might as well build it now. I'm just going to turn it off. One thing about the bathhouse is it makes everyone a bit healthier. To be honest, not that much urgent. It's not urgent until you start working on here. Then it becomes a little bit more helpful for stopping people here getting in sick, like the actual thing. So you're going to build this, but you're immediately going to turn it off because it just uses up coal and it doesn't actually make people happier. Oh, have I built a road there? Oh no, I have.
Shift's over. Stow your tools.
Gorgeous. Right, very nice. Everyone's going to eat. Bathhouse established. And I'll turn it right down. People start having sex in it, basically. And you have to pass the House of Pleasure rule, which is actually fine. It's a good one. But, because, you know, it makes people really motivated and happy. However, then people start getting the clap. And that's just a bit awkward, isn't it? But people are inevitably going to get the clap. You can't fight the clap, everyone. I'm sorry. Right. Speaking of the clap, let's have some foragers. Right. So I'm going to show you exactly where to go. So you want to go to the reindeer tracks first. There is a place where you can get a load of steam cores from these guys. Spoiler. In a minute, it's going to ask me to... okay, I'll start pulling people off here now. Right, first thing you want to do is steel. You will have a second one with steel as well, but then you not too shortly switch that over to coal. You don't have to, I do, just because I'd rather have one really pumping out the steel. You basically have one that switches from coal to steel often, effectively, because you're going to need coal for the ventilation plants you're going to have running constantly. You're going to have them running, not constantly, but a lot, because we're going to be playing the workers one, which means you don't get as much safety, which I will explain once I get to day 15, which I will jump ahead in a wee bit. Book of Laws. Okie dokie, I'm gonna get the pub now. Love a good pub.
New company rules are in place.
Pub's also good because it helps with motivation and discontent. Keeps people basically chipper and happy. Not motivated, discontent, but then you get the Hills of Pleasure. Telegraph station, brilliant. Okay, now that once you've got that staffed and the first shift, but the bell goes, you'll be able to build a telegraph station, which is how you get all of your resources and people from England. And look at that, it almost fits perfectly in there, almost as if it was planned. Which is the entrance? I always forget which the entrance is. Love like that. Right, so we're doing pretty well. 5 days ahead of schedule, which is grand. So this is where you start getting choices, people going, you know, do you want to clamp down on discontent, people gossiping. I'd recommend being good, especially in the early one. So basically this one is people, you know, talking about whether it's actually going to get cold or not. And I can go, only fools doubt it. Raise, but I'm actually going to do that one because it gives me the highest boost in motivation and a little bit of discontent, but I don't really give a shit about that because that'll go down very quickly. And look at that, my friends just moved. Right, so we want to go to the hunting grounds. I don't know if I'll be able to do it before I switch over to day 15, so I'll just go back and show you where to go. Cool. Profile manufacture researched. Right. I need a little bit more wood. Just like 2 seconds of me pausing. Bit of a faux pas, but there we go. Thank you, dear. And look at that. I've got 15 people free. Where are you from? I think I just finished the last of the steel. I did finish the last of the steel. So now is where I want to probably get temporarily another sawmill in a sec. Boom, thank you. You can pop it there, pop it here, and pop it next to that one. Pop it up here, actually. Yeah, put it up here. It'll destroy a few of the trees, but it'll start clearing this area out. Yeah, pop it there. Because it will burn through those trees really, really fast. Like, really fast. And then you demolish it. As mentioned, like, you will be tearing those things down all the time. So don't worry about kind of placing them in a lot of little places. Right, so now I've used all this up. And I'm not getting any food for a little bit. Turn it off. And just move those people somewhere else. So I'm going to leave 10 because we're going to have 10 people working in that. Right, telegraph station opens. This is how you order people in. A note of this one. Right. So you've got a logistical limit, right? And that goes up over time. So, for example, if I order a load of people in, that's what I'm going to do, and I order my shipment, right? That shipment comes in one day. If I then get those people and get distracted by what I'm doing and forget to order people in, don't panic. For a second, for what a lot of people initially think, and I thought, is that you effectively lose out if you don't use it immediately when it's available. What actually happens is it keeps going up anyway. So, if, for example, by the time it gets tomorrow, I'll have a logistical limit about there. So I can get about 11 dudes in. If I forgot for an entire in-game day, all it would mean is when I order my next shipment, I'd be able to get 22 people in instead. So, obviously, in terms of getting a steady flow of people in, it's grand, but if you accidentally forget for like a few in-game hours, it's not the end of the world. It's actually not even an issue, unless you desperately need the people then. So just as an FYI, don't panic if you forget to. I'll forget to use it. Oh, got something stuck in my throat. Let me have a sip of my cup. Talking way too much. Right. Okie dokie. So, got a pub. Let's pop. One thing, I always have the pub fully staffed, because it just keeps people happy, especially when you eventually get the House of Pleasure, which I'd recommend getting. People are probably going to ask for it at some point, and you might as well. People have needs, is all I'm saying. Right, so next hunting grounds. Thank you. So you're going to get, this is where one of the places you can actually set up a camp and get food. Don't. As said, these will always be available. The fishing grounds won't, so do those. Because you see, I only have 400 food there, and you will burn through that very, very quickly. Like 4 days, you'll burn through it. You're going to get a small waterfall now. Okie dokie. Right, so we're really far ahead. So I'm actually going to start... I'm going to put, just to make them happy, and so I can kind of move it on a little bit. Technically, I can have, I want to be super efficient, and I'm going to be. Because I want a reloading station there, but for now I can't do it, so I'm just going to pop this here, and have that there instead, and have a few people working on it, and they'll just start gathering resources there. But that's just until you get the reloading station. Some people are, I remember reading someone mentioning, I think on Reddit, that you shouldn't get reloading stations. I disagree with that person completely. And just have gathering. And they were just having gathering stations. But temporarily, a gathering station is grand. I'm going to pop 5 people into it. I mean, arguably, you could have that understaffed, but I kind of like getting rid of these trees. Right, so... now we're going to do... one big tip. Don't sign the hearty meals thing at all, because you'll want to use that on your first strike. It's a really easy one to forget, but don't sign it. It's a really, really good thing, because it basically just kind of... Hearty meals will increase motivation every day, and it's grand, especially when you have the upgraded fishing areas going, chugging away. But when you get your first strike, people are going to request a couple of things, and they'll request hearty meals, and they'll request comfortable quarters. Either or. And if you've used hearty meals, you have to give them comfortable quarters, or you have to delay work, or bargain with them, or, just potentially escalate it. So just for the sake of being efficient, do that. And then you can have hearty meals running, and it's a really good one. So this is one of the ones where you can pick good or evil. Radical treatment, obviously you can imagine, is not very nice. I do sustain life. People probably won't be getting grievously ill, though. Except the people getting the clap. But that is a whole different thing that I'm not going to spoil for you. People get the clap. Basically, that's what happens. Get the clap, lads. Happens to all of us. Right, so next I have to build the fishing harbour, and then that will bring me on to the next stage. I'm actually way earlier than I normally am. Normally I kind of take my time a bit, but...
Come on, get moving. Time to work.
There we go. So we're gathering resources docked. There we go. Fishing harbour. Beautiful. Oh, steam core's depleted. Another moral choice. No, mate. He wants to bunk with other people. No, you have to make do. One thing I dislike, actually, about the last one is just one niggling thing is you can't build any better houses, with the exception of one for the engineers if you go down a white negative route with them. Which I don't like. I don't see why you can't build bunk houses, at least. Don't like that. Disapprove. But that's just me being me. Right. Okay, so I'm going to very, very swiftly now build the fishing quarters. And then that'll get us onto the next stage, and then I will basically jump ahead to about day 16. And you can see, because we're already on 30 minutes, it's insane how long it can take you. Small waterfall. Now, can I remember which one? It's the rapids. Ignore the rusting rails, go to the rapids. I think. Right, so don't worry about your food too much. There we go, look at that, gorgeous. Let's do the research first, actually. Alright. So, we do want to go down this route swiftly, but I'm going to get the reloading station up, because you want a reloading station. Because, I mean, the gathering post is good, but it's just not as efficient as the reloading station. Okie dokie, now we're going to build. Also, don't forget to build the 1 hour and 24 minutes. I think I need about 3 more houses, don't I? I have 0, so I need 3 more houses. Alright, okie dokie. I have enough wood, so it's fine. Boop. Usually I have one there, but I'm building that there. It's fine. Cool. Oh, wait, no. And there. Sweet. And then we wanted... What did we need? We need the fishing harbour. So I have one there, and I have one there, and then you fully upgrade them, and they just bring in the food quite comfortably. And you don't need roads for these or that harbour, by the way, so don't feel you need to plan a path to them. Transport has arrived. See, I've got people, but they'll just build their own houses.
Shift's over. Stow your tools.
Beautiful. So, yeah, this should all work out for the following day. So, we're 3 days, and we're going to be 2 days ahead. Okay, I'm going to build the care house. And, yes. Beautiful. This one's just great because it gives them a nice big motivation boost when it's built as well. To the point where I should now start the next day with my big boost. I always keep it next to there, but I pull it aside 1 point. We're going to basically eventually replace that with an infirmary, and the infirmary is 3 pips wide. For some reason, whenever I place these two together and even do that, the infirmary still can't fit in there comfortably, so you're probably going to have to take the care house down anyway, so just as a thing. But it's quite cheap to build, so I'll show you in the setup in a sec. It looks quite nice. Infirmaries are amazing, and you want extra rations for the ill, because it's just so good. There we go. Motivation rises. Look at that. Oosh. And now we get a 30% boost in the efficiency, which is gorgeous, as you can probably imagine. And you know what I said we did forget to do? We'd forgot to order it, but the logistic limit's still gone up anyway, so it's fine. So I want another batch of people. So I get 14 instead of the 11 I would have ordered. Yeah, when I first forgot one of those, I actually reloaded like a save from 3 days before, thinking I fucked up, but you haven't. The rapids. I think it's the mountain lake, or I might be wrong. Or maybe it is the rusting rails. Okay. Sometimes there is a little bit of randomness, I believe, with the map. They don't quote me on that, because I'm pretty sure last time it was the rapids and the 3 graves, I think it was called. So I believe there is a sort of RNG to it. I think there's a chance for you to get one or the other. But I might be wrong.
Get on up. Work's not gonna
You'll
wait.
usually get all of them eventually, but sometimes you'll get a thing. And I've got loads of people. So now is where you start getting quite a few people who need work. So basic facilities are done. Right, so this is where you get the next shaft structure. So I'm going to talk through this rather than show you, and then we're going to jump ahead to day 15. So basically, I'm currently 3 days ahead of schedule. But realistically, I'm not, because I haven't built any of the generator stuff at all. So what you're going to want to be doing is, after we've got the reloading station, and pretty much that's it, maybe getting the infirmary, is you want to get into drafting machines and then mechanical calculators and getting all of these and these. And then you're able to actually run an incredibly efficient generator system where everyone's ventilated and everyone's good. So you've got the ventilation planned and ventilation planned coupling, which allows you to build 2 of them, and efficient fans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead now to basically after this section. So rather than me spending an entire hour showing you everything, I can instead just show you everything retroactively. It'll be way quicker, and you get to see everything all built in one go, rather than, you know, slowly watching me do it. 1 second. Right, and here we are. So basically, I've got quite a heavy infrastructure here already, as you can see. And I'm just going to basically spend kind of 5-10 minutes just talking you through everything, and what I've done, and exactly why I've done it. So I'm on day 15. So I've hit the deadline. I'm actually 22 hours ahead of schedule. The way it seems to work, or at least for me, unless I really want to push myself, is usually the first one I hit it more or less bang on time. You can actually miss your first deadline if you want, but usually the first one I don't miss. And because again, we're playing on normal mode, so this isn't hard mode at all. It's just not as challenging, and in a more pleasant, enjoyable kind of way. And now I can start getting quite ahead of schedule. So I've got basically 10 days to do this part. Then you got 30 days effectively. And as you can see right here, so day 45 at 3 o'clock, I need to have built the 2 thermal hulls. Now, a big thing with this is you go to this section. Once you've built your first part of the generator, you'll get this section appear. And this is the generator construction overview. Actually, it's just before when you've placed that shaft down. And you'll actually be able to see all of the resources you need for the entire build process. And one of the things which people do, which I'm possibly going to do on this playthrough actually, just of myself when I play, is you can actually build every single thing in advance and just build the entire generator in one almost back-to-back sitting. There's actually an achievement for it as well. It's ducks in a row, I think it's called. And that's actually technically the most efficient way of doing it, because you just save so much time. The reason why it's efficient is because you've got the optional upgrades. And if you want the, quote, best ending, you obviously want to build the best generator you can to increase the chances of people who, the subsequent, you know, citizens who actually live with the generator from surviving. So you want the rinse system, overdrive, and heat vents. The problem is, so you gather all these resources, but you don't actually build these, you research these. And it's a bit, I would argue, a little bit sneaky, actually. Because I remember the first time I ever did this, I didn't realise that. So I had collected all the resources and then got to, I was like a day and a half, 2 days ahead of schedule, and I didn't have enough time to research all of these. I researched a couple of them, but not all of them. So you need about 3.5 days roughly to research these with 2 of these. Arguably what you could do is just build loads and loads of workshops and just, you know, power through, which is actually a potentially good idea. So that's the generator thing. Right, next is safety. So you can have 5 safety colours. Safe, unhealthy, harmful, dangerous, and deadly. Pretty self-explanatory in terms of whether they're good or bad, but let me go into a bit more detail. So it's fortunately in the afternoon, which is perfect. So this is safe, right? So this isn't currently on right now, but it's got, as you can see, -2 for the toxic gases. So this is the toxic gas level. Currently it's medium. This goes up and down. You'll see the arrow, which will tell you whether it will raise or lower the following day. The first time it happens, it will immediately raise your work safety, well, lower it by the danger by 1 point. So it's worth bearing in mind when you first happen. If you haven't got this yet, it will happen when you start building this, and everything will jump up by 1 point, and then it's a permanent thing. And so currently right now, I'm able to deal with it because I have 2 ventilation plants. That's something you want to build quite early, because of the fact that 2 ventilation plants running simultaneously will effectively eliminate most of your toxic gas. And eventually you can build a 3rd, and that way toxic gas is effectively eliminated by the 3 ventilation plants. And there are now other ways to do safety as well. So the second one is the profiles manufacture. Now this is this section here. Profiles manufacture, which allows you to build, I think there's wooden beams effectively. The scaffolding effectively. And initially they're quite expensive, and you need 6 of them. You spend 6 of them, and it increases your safety by 1. But you may notice it says 4 right there, because you can actually increase the efficiency of it. So 1 second. Oh, so you need to get that first before you can use the ability. Then you optimize protection, which means you only need 4 of them. Then if you optimize them so they're cheaper and they build faster, and then also you improve the work safety of it anyway, because that's a really smart idea, you can pretty much have this building running all the time with very little support, and you can basically you can spend 80 wood and you can have then these running with an extra work safety for an entire day. It's basically a point system. It's really simple. So just think of it like, okay, I've got danger level of 4, so I need 4 points of work safety, right? So right now, just those ventilation plants and its base safety level, which I got from that part, and those 2 make 3, right? Now there's another thing, which if I go to the Book of Laws, you get this section, the labour section. And firstly, it's just these ones here. So these ones here. Eventually you get to this section, which I'll talk about. So the first one you pretty much want to do is safety procedures. This gives you an ability to basically enact safety procedures. And that does this. So now I get an extra piece. So technically now the toxic gas could go at 1 more point, and I would still be in the safe section. So when I'm in a safe section, no one's ever going to get sick. It also means if there are ever events that happen that require safety, which do happen, you won't have to worry about not being able to do them. A little bit of a tip is when you're building structures here, is when you get the percentage to about late 60%, there's often an event that happens, and you want to have your safety at safe for that to get the best outcome. If it's a little bit lower, you'll have grayed out options that you won't be able to choose that will cause damage and potentially death and defects as well. That's just something to bear in mind. Now, there are other bits and pieces as well. So you want to upgrade the ventilation plant and go down here. Right, so now I went back to the Book of Laws here. So as with the base game of Frostpunk, you will get 2 options. So in Frostpunk, the base game, you get Order or Faith. And both start quite benign as well. Order, just, you get guard posts, a little bit more structure. Faith, obviously, people are united by their faith. They're both quite benign. But obviously, the way Frostpunk works is that you can cross a line. Now, it's never really stressed in they don't let you know. But once you take a step back, you realise it. You never ever have to actually do any of these. Some of them you need to do for safety, but you don't. For example, so I went for so basically this one you get to side with either the workers or the engineers. So, labor. It's always called the labour section, but the workers or the engineers. So the engineers are. Well, it looks like that actually. But with the workers, obviously, it's more about, because obviously this is set in Victorian times, so it's, workers' councils, collective bargaining, and things like that. And with the engineers, it's more overseers and the safety the protectorate, which is actually incredibly handy. So basically, you'll get that an event when you do your first section. So when you complete your first section, or just before it, you'll get your first strike. When you get your first strike, then you will get the option of actually resolving the strike and then picking a side that you choose. I chose the the labour union, which lowers the strike level of everything around it, which isn't actually why I chose this. But for the engineers, you get a building that gives you a boost to your safety by 1 point, which is very, very tempting. However, the safety right at the end, like the last 10 days, doesn't actually become an issue anymore. And the problem is motivation. So with these ones, and this is why I chose the labour side with the workers, is even though safety is a bit harder to manage, you have to plan ahead a bit more. Motivation will rise every day. Collective bargaining enables you to sort out strikes, and eventually you get more stuff and more stuff. So it is ultimately down to you what you want to choose. Just a good thing, if you are playing it as a good guy, pay attention to your choices. When you get later on, people, when the frost starts to come, people will start getting harder to manage, and you will be given hard choices. You don't necessarily have to take the hard choice. You can still, be a nice person. So a couple other tips as well is, as I said, get your four workshops up quite quickly. That way your research is just booming it, especially with the efficiency upgrades as well. 130%, that one I think is just down one person because I had to send them back. So that is grand. Because I'm going to be balancing, I'm not taking the safety protectorate, which is siding with the engineers. Safety is going to become a little bit more of a balancing act for me, but not too much. I'm just going to make sure I build loads of these structural profiles often. But having a infirmary in place is an incredibly useful thing, to the point of having 2 is a godsend, because they can carry 10 patients, so that's 20 sick people you can manage at a time, and they cure people quicker. Also, you want 2 of these, zooming up, 2 of these running, and you want to upgrade them quite quickly, because then you can switch to, well, actually I had to turn them down because I was running out of food, but once you upgrade them, you can switch to hearty meals, which keeps people's motivation even higher. So again, motivation, it really starts to drop. And then you can also do things like have extra rations for the ill. To give you an idea, this has got 195% efficiency right now. So basically, it's getting 65% for double rations for the sick and a 30% due to high motivation. So I said, these people are curing super fast. They just go in and they're gone in about 4 hours. It's glorious. You do want this running as well, the bathhouses, once you start getting toxicity here, but leave them off until you do. And it might even be handy to turn these off while these aren't running, just as a useful thing, because people, don't need them because they're not getting sick. What else? I like to have 2 of these. As I said, I switched this over to coal while I was running these. I'm actually going to be switching it back over to steel now while I build up steel reserves and actually build up the resources. But while I'm building the center sections, having coal coming in is a really grand. Also, building reloading stations here is very, very helpful. Now, one more thing. Let's see if I can remember where I went. So, there was the hunting grounds. And you got Alcine Lake, Avalanche. It was the closed Savins Railways. Yeah, see, it was RNG. It was RNG. I was right. So you want the closed tavern. So the order might change a little bit, but you'll get a closed tavern, and then you'll get the railroad track, and then you'll get 3 graves, and then you'll get, where is it? The Cleve Niche, which will give you 2 steam cores and a few steel, 5 steel composites as well. It's a little bit RNG, but basically, if you get the rusting rails, go to it, and then it will eventually give you... You want the closed tavern, basically, because then you get directions to where you need to go. And anything else I can think of without being too spoilerific? No, not really. As said, so this was aimed at, again, new players, not necessarily... Well, it's not a tool, in fact. A hard mode guide. It's a little bit more flexibility. You don't really have to make the hard choices if you don't want to. So don't panic about safety, just make sure you prep with it. And a really good thing is profile manufacturers, and, you know, don't be afraid to spend 80 wood and have those stocked up. One more thing as well, actually, is in each of these 3 things here, steam exchangers, steel composites, and structural profiles, try and have 5 of those stocked up at a time. There will be instances where you'll be asked to make safety equipment on the fly due to like event pop-ups, and it will require 5 of either of these. You will usually give you a chance to, okay, let me know when I have enough resources to do it again, but it's better to get those as soon as possible. Anyway, I'm going to leave that right there. Hope you guys found that helpful. As always, follow me on Twitter at norespawns. I will have more videos up soon, potentially more Frostpunk ones if I think I've got any good topics, and hopefully they just release more updates and new scenarios, because it's great fun. I have missed playing this game. I will obviously have more other videos as well, more streams, loads of content. But until that point, you guys enjoy the rest of your week. As always, follow me on Twitter at norespawns, and I'll speak to you absolutely fantastic bunch soon. You take care.